Hi all, I'm Libby, proud captain of Millwall Lionesses. Thank you to our Millwall fan show from the No One Likes Us Talking team for sponsoring me this year. Make sure you give them a listen like I do. Or even better, why not sponsor a Lioness while you're at it like they do? Thank you always for your continued support.
This podcast is a proud member of the Fan Hub 100. Football without fans is nothing, so we've partnered with Fan Hub to put fans first. Search Fan Hub app to play your part in the journey.
Hi, I'm Bethany Warren, and you are joining me to listen to the podcast of our Millwall fan show with the No One Likes Us Talking team, which is available every Friday at 8 p.m.
It is the 21st show of COVID-19 reducing in lockdown 3.0 here in England. I'm your host, Eamonn Barclay, and I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of James, the Instagram Kelly, Henry, No One Wants to Talk to Me Morgan, and George, the Lampoon Lampy.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Firstly, before I turn to the panel, there are two announcements. The Lions Food Hub, based in Rennie and Manor Estate Tenants and Residents Association Hall in Bermondsey, are looking for food and financial support to help them. You can find Lions Food Hub on Twitter and Facebook, or enter Lions Food Hub Banquet. That's BANKUET. I'll say that again, BANKUET. Into your browser and make a one-off or regular donation. We talk to the Proper Blokes Club every week on the show and say that founder Scott Johnson is working to remove the stigma surrounding men's mental health with walk and talk groups. Well, here is Jeremy BM telling us what joining the group is like.
It doesn't matter if you live in the area or not, come along. If you want a safe place to just chat about anything, nothing, it doesn't really matter to us, whatever. If you want to unload to someone about a pit that you're in, we'll listen without any judgment, whatever your background, whatever your situation, however you got there, don't matter. If you've been through it all, you've come out the other side and you want to support some others, come along, because why wouldn't you? Or if you just want to get out of the house, you just want to walk and you want to talk, that's what it says on the tin. Come along, guys. You know you want to. Stay safe.
Well, thanks, Jeremy. So, guys, go and have a walk and talk either on a Thursday at 6 p.m. and or Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It will make a difference. New sessions have started in Wallington since the 25th of May and are to be announced in Greenwich shortly. Check out their Facebook and Twitter site for details. Well, hello, guys. Hello, George. George, are you going to tell us a little bit tonight about one of the three relegated Premiership sides? And would it be possible for you to talk to us about your thoughts on how Fulham might do this season?
Well, I mean, if you're a Fulham supporter, you must have had a hell of a ride these last few seasons. You've been up, down again. I'm sure there are many Millwall fans who are delighted that we will be playing them next year, but I don't like to see any football club foul, and I think from Fulham's perspective they have recently. Couple of points for Fulham. They're the oldest football club in London, the oldest professional football club, and I think their record attendance is against Millwall. So, but I should look forward to going to Fulham. I love Craven Cottage with a passion, actually. But as for them doing well, I think if they keep Parker, I think they will do well once again, actually.
Well, let's hope that ain't too well. James, what about West Brom yo-yoing?
Evening, guys. Firstly, I'm going to love your nickname for me. In terms of West Brom, well, I mean, I saw today that Chris Wilder looks to be set to become their new manager. Obviously, they've lost Sam Allardyce now. First ever time he's been relegated as a manager. I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think they're a team that could be there and abouts, but I think there's a few players that I reckon are going to get picked off by other teams in the summer. For example, Sam Johnston, he's going to want to carry on his spells in the England team. You got the likes of Matthias Pereira as well, who's been really good for them this season, drive them forward at times. Callum Robinson as well maybe could be a potential player to move on. But yeah, I think they'll be there and about. So I can see them being at least the top 8 side next season.
Yeah.
Whether or not they bounce straight back up remains to be seen. But yeah, should be I couldn't say for certain at this point.
Well, with Ken Zahor at the helm, they might well be a big threat. Henry, Sheffield United.
Sheffield United, as much as I love seeing them in the Premiership, what a great away day. I mean, that's the first thing that crossed my mind. Sheffield United, fantastic away day. Unless, of course, they stick it on a Tuesday night, which I've been to far too many times to do it again. But in terms of what they might do on the pitch, Eamonn, they've just, obviously, I think today, announced a new manager, Slavia Jokanovic, who I think's got previous 2 promotions to the Premier League with other Championship sides.
Fulham.
Oh, with that wonderful name, Fulham, and it's funny that they might be appointing Chris Wilder, or West Brom might be appointing Chris Wilder. I think that we're not really sure what he's going to do. Apparently, set his sights on Tom Kearney. Fulham, I don't quite know how that's going to work, but I think their big news is their striker Ollie McBurney looks like he might be going to Rangers. I think Rangers are after him, and he's the kind of player that would probably score. Well, who knows? But 25 to 30 goals. If Ivan Toney can do it, I imagine he probably would do that. Especially if it doesn't, if our division doesn't get much better. And I think they've probably, especially with, they didn't overstretch themselves when they're in the Premier League. They've had a pretty shocking season this year. It depends how they bounce back. I think if they start well and win their first few games, they're probably on for an automatic. But you just never know with the Championship, do you? And teams can sometimes come down and struggle. I mean, obviously we didn't see it too much this year. I guess Bournemouth would be the one team that came down last year with a huge wage bill and have failed to bounce back at the first time of asking. Yeah. So you might have a similar situation there, but if they can keep hold of most of their other players and only lose, Ollie McBurney, then I think they're probably going to bounce straight back.
Yeah, it's reminiscent actually of their rise and fall to being very much like the time when Millwall went up and finished high and about 10th in the top flight and then absolutely dropped like a stone the following season. So we'll have to watch out for all of those when they start playing sometime in August. Anyhow, we'll take a break there and be back with our first guest this evening. But for now, let's listen to what fantastic fanatics can offer our club.
Hi, I'm Richard Gordon, and I'd like to invite you to become a Fantastic Fanatic. Fantastic Fanatics is a great way to raise funds for your sports club. Sign up today, find your club, and securely register your everyday debit and credit cards. Every time you spend with our retail partners, they pay a percentage back to your club. It costs you nothing, and you can win cash prizes along the way. Visit fantasticfanatics.com and help your club be the best it can be.
I'm Eamonn Barclay. I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of James Kelly, Henry Morgan and George Lambie. Some great returns from online shops to our club. Give it a go on Fantastic Fanatics. Our first guest tonight hails from Richmond. His working life began in the media as a journalist on the Wembley Observer. He then went to King's College London and Tübingen University in Germany. Following graduation, he moved into the property business. He took over Millwall Football Club with Reg Burr, Brian Mitchell and then Peter Mead in 1986 and remained on the board until 2008. The club won promotion to the old First Division, now the Premiership, in 1988. With Theo Pathetis in charge, he got to the 2004 FA Cup final at Cardiff. And that's when we played in the UEFA Cup the following season. In 2005, he was chairman in succession to Theo Pathetis and was succeeded by Peter de Savary. In his time, Millwall won the FA Youth Cup twice, and as chair of the Lionesses, they won 2 Women's FA Cups. He was instrumental in installing the present chairman, John Berylson, in 2007, and he remains a fan of all Millwall sides to this day. It's one out of our own, a NOLUT panellist, so let's say hello to Jeff Burnige.
Yeah, well, you'll be relieved to know I am actually here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're not late. That's a bonus, isn't it? Hey? The others might say hello to you in a minute, Jeff. You know what they're like.
How are you?
Evening, Jeff.
Evening, Jeff. How's West London tonight?
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. You stopped me from going for an evening walk.
Hey, sultry, I reckon, over there.
You can
Jeff.
go afterwards, yeah.
This feels very strange not to be a panellist.
Jeff, tell the listeners how you first became a Millwall fan, which inevitably led to so much more.
My father had been an avid fan. He was a Bermondsey man, grew up in Snow's Fields, right behind London Bridge. He'd be astonished if he came back and saw the Shard. And I went as a baby in arms with him. It was a family thing. He wanted to do that. And I used to go with him regularly from the age of about 6, by which time we were living in Wembley. And we'd combine a trip to the Den with a bit of sightseeing in central London, identifying statues and so on. And then we'd visit his parents in Snow's Fields and then go on to the game. So that's how I started being a real passionate Millwall fan. And then in the 70s, or was it even the late 60s? Yeah, it was the late 60s. The two of us would go to boxing dinners, either at the Hilton or the Grosvenor House, where you went in evening dress and had a meal, and a lot of money was raised for charity. And one night, the Millwall team was there as guests, and I think it was marking the end of the 59-match unbeaten run. So they were guests, and my dad was a bit reticent, but I marched over and introduced myself to the players, and people might remember Harry Grove. He was hosting their table, and I told him who I was, and he insisted. He came over and met my dad and said, we'd like to invite you to come to the game and meet Mr. Purser in the director's box. And that's how my dad got involved.
Wow. What a story.
Blimey.
Jeff, it's George here, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, George. Nice to hear your voice.
You liar. Listen, I remember you telling me a story about meeting one of the greatest footballers, if not the greatest footballer that ever lived, Pele. Do you remember that story?
I do.
Would you like to tell our listeners what a fascinating story it is?
Well, I don't want to give everything away from my forthcoming memoirs, do I? But it was a very brief meeting, but it was on my honeymoon in 1975. We were in California, and I found out that Los Angeles Aztecs were playing New York Cosmos somewhere in LA. Can't remember even where it was, and we were a short flight away. So I excused myself from my newly married wife, got on a plane and went to watch the New York Cosmos, mainly because the manager was a man called Gordon Bradley, who was someone that we had mutual friends, and Pele was playing, but so was Mike Dillon, known to the players as Matt. He was on loan from Tottenham, or he'd signed for us from Tottenham or something. So I had an in there, and so I introduced myself, as I'm inclined to do, and after the game, I'll never forget it. I watched Pele, obviously, and after the game, the players were all on the bus. Pele got on the bus. There was a seat next to him, and the manager said, "Go and sit next to Pele." So wasn't going to be asked twice. I went and sat next to him, and next to him was one of those little sort of fly windows that the buses used to have, like a small panel which you could open at the top end of the window, and he would not leave that stadium until he'd signed everybody's autograph. There were no selfies in those days, and he was behind glass, so pictures I don't think were taken, or hardly taken, but he refused to leave, and the players were getting a bit unhappy after an hour, I can tell you. But eventually we left, and they were staying in the Beverley, Wiltshire, and it turned out in conversation he was going to be a guest that night on the Johnny Carson show. So having nowhere to sleep, I volunteered to go with him. And so from the wings, I watched Pele interviewed by Johnny Carson. It was called Saturday Night Live. We're talking 1975. So that's how I met Pele. He doesn't call me Jeff, and I don't call him Edson, but I did meet him.
Yeah.
Well, most people tell different stories about their honeymoon, but obviously you've got a different one.
Well, she was a very tolerant woman, and she was an Evertonian, and so that became my family's other team. But when Millwall played Everton, while I was a director, she always supported Millwall until some Cockney voice would make some kind of insult to Scousers, and I saw the blood go to her face and she reverted. But otherwise, she was a great support, and she loved her Millwall, and so do our two children, and thereby hangs a tale.
Lovely lady, Jeff, lovely lady.
Yeah, she was something special, our Jane, yeah.
Hey Jeff, evening, Henry here, mate, how are you?
Very nice to hear you, Henry. Nice to hear you. What can you ask me?
It's about your father, Herbert, who was our chairman and had hope for top-flight football with Millwall, but unfortunately saw that undone through the infamous Panorama programme.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever anticipate bringing the club into the top flight with Reg Burr, Brian Mitchell and Peter Mead?
Absolutely. I mean, my dad, everyone knew him as Bernage, short for Bernage. I don't think he was awfully keen on the name Herbert. I am. If I had sons, at least one of them would have been called Herbert. But Jane wasn't keen on that name. That's probably why she had girls. But what happened when my dad died in 1983 as a director, and it was on Good Friday 1983, and he was given a standing minute silence on the pitch the following day on Easter Saturday, and I went with Jane, and we left at half time. It was too emotional, but I'm very grateful that he got that. He certainly deserved it. You wanted to know about Panorama. Certainly, he was very keen to appoint Gordon Jago, who he thought was a moderniser. He was very reluctant to part company with Benny Fenton, who had done an outstanding job as Millwall manager, really outstanding, and got within, as everyone remembers, was it 1972? I think it was, where we all but got promoted to the top flight for the first time in our history. When my dad became chairman and Gordon wanted to be a moderniser, we didn't have a very good team, and we were able to bring in some younger players and some non-league players. People like Phil Walker and Trevor Lee are well remembered, and that's another story completely. But Gordon agreed with the BBC to do a programme about all the community work that Millwall were doing, and we gave them access, and everyone knows that they completely ambushed us. It was a scandal what they did. Panorama's got a bit of a checkered history. It has done some controversial programmes, not least of which in recent times we've been talking about the Martin Bashir interview with the Princess of Wales. But it was a total stitch up, and on the night it showed, they offered us a chance. We found out it was going out on, I think it was a Monday night, and they offered us the chance to see it. And my dad went and saw it and was horrified. But they assured him there'd be a discussion in the studio to discuss the programme, which would give, I've forgotten who was going for us, I think it was Gordon, and give us a chance to sort of rebut it. But that was the night of the fire strike. Thank you, London Fire Brigade. Thank you, Eamonn. Because the lead story in the news was the use of the green goddesses. You've got to be an old geezer to remember that. So the part of the programme that would have been Millwall's chance to speak was cancelled, and they put out a piece on the Green Goddesses instead. Now, my dad knew the chairman of the BBC, a man called Stuart Young, brother of a cabinet minister of later times, and he went and saw him, and an investigation was held internally, and the hierarchy at the BBC realised that we'd been stitched up. Some of it had been staged, and we were badly misled by the makers of the programme, and he vowed never ever to show the footage of that ever on BBC again. And apart from one or two very brief scenes, they've never re-showed it because they realised that it had been a travesty. Unfortunately, mud sticks. It was the issue of the day for politicians, and we've lived with that stereotype ever since. And you just can't live it down. And I long ago gave up trying to live it down, and you just run with it nowadays, because we all know those who come into the club from outside are always astonished and pleasantly surprised what kind of club it is, and most of them form lifelong bonds with the club. And we all know it was garbage. There was an element of truth in it, of course there was, but there was with many clubs. That's the story of that. You also asked me, Henry, about whether I thought I could get Millwall in the First Division.
Top flight,
My dad always told me never overpromise. So when we took over the club in 1986, I actually missed the first 4 games. I had a family holiday booked, which I went on in Portugal. And in those days, there was no internet. And in the village we were staying in, there was one payphone. So the only way of getting any news from Millwall was on that payphone. But when I came back, I was accosted by the fans behind the main stand, near where the Jubilee Club had been put. And, what are you going to do? Come on, what are you going to do? What's going to happen? And I went, I'm promising you now, I'm going to get Millwall in the top flight. What an idiot to make such a promise. But less than 2 years later, there we were. And I don't think I'll ever match the pride I felt in achieving that. Not even the cup final could match that feeling, because that was what do we used to say, 103 years of existence, wasn't it? Something like that, 105. Yeah. And I made a promise, and thank God I was able to keep it. And that was a magnificent thing to have done. Everyone remembers that we didn't just get promoted by playoffs or anything. We absolutely blitzed that division.
As they say, Jeff, we smashed it.
We smashed it. We were 7 points clear of the field with 1 game to go.
That's right.
And that game was at home to Blackburn Rovers. I think the players had over-celebrated in the few days before the game. And it was also the case that if Blackburn won, they prevented Crystal Palace from getting in the playoffs.
Yeah. Now, what's the truth behind that? What's the truth behind that?
I didn't grieve for them. I must say, I didn't grieve for them.
I suspect not.
Evening, Jeff. How's it going?
Really good. I'm enjoying this. It's very strange, though, not to be asking the questions.
It's good to talk to you, Jeff. Unfortunately, we only have a short time to speak to you tonight, but hopefully you'll be interested in coming on and talking some more on the revitalised No One Likes Us Talking monthly podcast, or even a special with us. However, in the meantime, we've heard many people compare Teddy Sheringham and the ill-fated Richard Sadlier together, both of whom you saw at close hand. So can you tell us, was Richard in the same class as Teddy?
Yes. Yes, he was. They weren't the same player, obviously. Richard Sadlier, but for that injury, would have got 100 caps for Ireland. He was the natural successor to Niall Quinn. He was an amazing player. But having said that, he was in the same class, but I don't think any centre-forward we've had, with the exception of the great Len Julians, could honestly be spoken about as quite on the level that Teddy was. And interestingly, both of those players played in our youth team before they played in our first team, which is something that gives me particular pride.
Leo Constantine? I know he scored a lot of goals for us.
Do you mean Jimmy Constantine?
Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah, sorry.
That was before my time. Thank you for thinking I'm old enough to remember Jimmy Constantine. I think his last game for Millwall was 1949 or something. So, yeah.
He scored 8 goals for us, though, didn't he?
I know I'm an old git, but come on. I don't remember seeing Jimmy Constantine play.
Come on, Henry, ask your question.
We had Wesley Reid on last week, Jeff, and we explored the poor second season in the top flight. In particular, one win against Man City in the last 25 games from Boxing Day onwards. Wes said that it was a fear factor, but what was your take on the dramatic slide back to the second tier in the second half of that season?
In the music industry, it's the dreaded second album, isn't it? And in football, it's that dreaded second season. You've just seen another example of it. A wonderful first season for Chris Wilder and Sheffield United.
Sheffield United, yeah.
Ignominious bottom place the following season. But, I mean, my take on that season is that in October, we were top of the first division. For the second season running, we made an appearance on top of the league. And I must say, it all came as a great shock. And I don't think any of us could work out what had gone wrong and what to do about it. It's one of those things. I mean, Chris Wilder's a good example because wonderful manager, but he obviously couldn't find the answer. And we were like that. But we decided to make a change in the style of play slightly, mainly Frank McClintock's insistence. He thought that the direct style we had with two strikers had been found out. And although we were not anywhere near the bottom at the time, we went and spent the money on Paul Goddard, who was a different type of striker completely. And it never worked. It just never worked. And Paul, very, very good player, and went on to have another few good years at Ipswich after he left Millwall. But that was one factor. And also, I think Doc wasn't in the greatest of health at the time. And I think he had some pressures. And because he couldn't find the answer, I think it put a strain between him and Frank. And look, it all just came to a terrible, terrible end. And I remember about sometime in March, we played Man United at home, and we were both in the bottom four. Can you believe that? And
Blimey.
Bottom 4 or 5, certainly. And Man United beat us. And from then on, all the belief in our survival drained away, and it was a dreadful couple of months leading to that inevitable relegation. Really awful.
Yeah, I remember that game. It was all important, really, wasn't it? Listen, you've held the position of chairman role for both the Lion and the Lionesses. During the period that you held the responsibility for the Lionesses, it was a golden period for our women's team. What was special about the team and management at that time that led to the Lionesses winning 2 women's FA Cups?
I became chairman a year after I became chairman of Millwall. I passionately believed in broadening the sport of football to all sections of the population. And I'm talking about females, I'm talking about minorities, I'm talking about all kinds of... I want it broadened. And one of the things I thought Millwall could do to rapidly improve the size of its crowds was to address the idea of getting females interested in the game. And the Lionesses were already being very well run. They were probably already in the top 3 or 4 clubs in the country, if not in the top 2, certainly the top 3 or 4. And I think it was the commitment of the club, which I was able to channel into the Lionesses. And in 1991, not only did we win the FA Cup on a day that all Millwall fans will remember, not because they were at Tranmere Rovers ground with me watching Millwall win the Women's FA Cup, but Teddy Sheringham got a hat-trick for Millwall at Bristol City on the same day, 1991. Cast your minds back, everybody, you'll remember that.
Yeah.
Not only did we win that cup, but the Women's FA, which preceded the Football Association taking women's football over, we launched a National League for the first time, and the inaugural game was a repeat of the final, Millwall versus Doncaster Bells. And because of the way the FA have run women's league football in this country, both Doncaster Bells and Millwall have been cast down well below the levels which they enjoyed only a few years ago, which is sad for me. And I really hope to see Millwall back at the top of the women's game eventually. It's going to take time.
Jeff, your interest in regeneration is well known, as is your working life in property. New plans depict our ground on the doorstep of a thriving community of housing and mixed array of shops, lifestyle proprietors, along with food and beverage outlets. What do you make of the new proposals for the regeneration surrounding the Den, which have been submitted by renewal with a project development time of 15 years?
I haven't looked at the plans in detail. The one thing I would like to know is where phase 1 is going to be. It doesn't appear to be on our car park land, which was the intention originally, I think, of renewal. And I did notice that they're still saying it's dependent on the creation of the new station on Surrey Canal Road, which I think is going to be called something daft like New Bermondsey, because it's nowhere near Bermondsey, as anyone will tell you. But so I haven't got any big views on the latest plans. I do know that the club, and I suppose most credit must go to the present chairman, a man I greatly admire, John Berylson. He's been amazing as chairman, absolutely amazing. And the situation looked bleak for Millwall regarding the regeneration, and we've somehow come back from the brink of disaster. I'm not quite sure who takes most of the credit for that, but I do know who takes most of the credit for us getting into the mess in the first place. But I'm not going to get the lawyers onto me if I say something, so I'll keep quiet about that. This regeneration is inevitable. It can be made to be a great help to Millwall if we play our cards right. My feeling is that any scheme which keeps Millwall close to the very centre of London is what I want. I do not want us moving out of London, wherever it might be. I won't name any places, otherwise they might be offended. But for me, the thing we're a central London club. We're a club that you can get to from anywhere in central London. We're a stone's throw from Tower Bridge, London Bridge and Westminster Bridge. We can see Canary Wharf from our ground. We've got to stay there. And any scheme we can come up with which keeps us there, I'm going to be in favour of. Much as I was in moving from the old Den. One of the things that got us the move was that some of us were determined we weren't going to move out of the area, and when that particular piece of land became available, we grabbed it with both hands.
No, that was a good move, really good move, Jeff. Just used to spoil George's playing days. He used to get played down on the old Senegal fields, and he was very upset when that went. I've
heard it described, but in a very coarse way, ending with Hull. Yes. I don't think it was the most glamorous of places, and of course it was built on housing. That had been housing until the end of the Second World War.
That's right.
It had all sorts bombed out of it, and it was very near the water table. The water was just below ground floor, so it was unsuitable for redevelopment for housing, which is why it became a dog walking place and why it was available to us. A long goal kick from corner flag to corner flag from our old ground.
It was wonderful.
The much loved and much remembered old Den.
Den. There you go. Which can't be bad. Well, thanks, Jeff. That's been a really interesting and varied chat once again. You never cease to amaze me with the things that you can pick out of that mind of yours. And we look forward to seeing you back on the panel next week. But before we say goodbye, it is a tradition, as you only know so well that guests provide a prediction for our next match, but as you also know, there isn't one. But please tell us, who do you fancy to win the delayed European Championships of 2020?
I would honestly say that one of the faults of the English football fan is we kind of assume that we're going to win it. And winning the European Championships or the World Cup, it's phenomenally difficult. There are at least 8 teams that think they've got a chance of winning the European Championships this year. You know, the Germanys, the Frances, let alone the Belgians, who are the world #1 team. You know, if we get to the semi-finals, we're doing damn well. But you know what? We have got the best attacking team we've had for some time. If a defence can be got to perform well by Gareth Southgate in the meantime, we do have a chance. And after all, we got to the semi-final of the World Cup not long ago. So I'm hopeful. And I'm going to say that the winners of the European Championships 2020, even though it's being played in 21, is England.
Thank you very much for that, Jeff, and we'll put that on our book. Anyhow, I'll look forward to hearing more stories about a most memorable period of our history, when you were board member and also for a time chairman of both the Lions and the Lionesses in not the too distant future. Until the next week, goodbye, Jeff.
See you,
Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye, everyone. And we'll certainly do that monthly podcast, Henry. No problem.
Cheers, Jeff. See you soon. Bye, mate.
Good night.
Thanks,
all.
Jeff.
Goodbye.
Well, we'll take a break there before we listen to what's going on with Millwall Lionesses and Millwall Romans. But first, here is Bethany Warren talking about an app for the blind or partially sighted.
Hi, Bethany Warren here. Millwall Lionesses have partnered with international smartphone application Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes is an application that truly benefits the poor of sight and the blind, but is supported by those of us that can see.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to first available number.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app.
Gripped image.
And we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in. So, would you care to be my eyes?
Be My Eyes is displayed on the Lionesses shorts this season. Download the app onto your smartphone now and help those that need your eyes straight away.
I'm Eamonn Barclay and I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of James Kelly, Henry Morgan and George Lampy. I continue to be amazed by that Be My Eyes app. I think it was James who first mentioned it had 4.7 million volunteers who support the excess of 300,000 blind and low vision users in more than 150 countries, and they provide the service in 180 languages. It is incredible what human kindness can produce. Both the Millwall Lionesses and Romans are now playing. Let's hear from Paul Loding, Millwall Romans player manager, who faced Stokey last weekend in the London Unity League.
Yeah, hi Eamonn, how you doing? Yeah, it was really good. It was a tough game for us.
to be fair to Stokey, they played really well in the first half. They were playing a very similar style to how we play, out from the back. They packed their midfield, and they overpowered us slightly in the midfield in the first half. We went in half-time 1-0 down, and just changed tactics at half-time. So we went a little bit more direct, which is not our style. We like to play out from the back, but we were doing a few passes at the back and then playing it a bit more forward, and that seemed to work.
That's fantastic. So that's the second championship in the row.
Yes, yeah, we were champions last year, and then we've just managed to secure it with the points on Sunday with 3 games left to go, which is great.
Amazing. Yeah, that's quite
absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah, when we spoke with John last week, he gave us the full lowdown on the mathematics, and everybody was clear about exactly what had to happen. So that was wonderful. So, Stokey, are they your closest rivals in terms of form in that league?
There was definitely a contender this year. There was a few teams. To be honest, there's not a bad team in the league. Every game we play is always a bit of a battle. So there's not really a team there that I would say, it could go anywhere. We've got a couple of hard games coming up. Phoenix, a really good side. We're playing in a couple of weeks, and we're playing Charlton a week on Sunday, which again, a really good side. They also play on a 4G pitch, so they like to utilise the space as well. So they were definitely contenders, Stokey, for taking the title, and they will be next year as well.
Well, you'll have to find some treasures.
Absolutely.
To unravel and bring out of the team for next season. It's interesting, the Charlton games coming up. I'm not sure whether people will be able to come along and watch that as yet.
No, we're playing it away, which is a bit of a pain. We'd love to host them at St Paul's.
Yeah.
Love them to come over, but we're playing them a week on Sunday. It's a 3:00 kick-off. I can certainly check regarding spectators. I think we might be all right now.
Okay,
for them to come in.
So let us know, and we'll share the word.
Absolutely.
Yes, people will be loving to go and watch a Millwall Charlton game.
Absolutely.
As they can't see anything else at the moment. OK, Paul, so well done to yourselves and the team, and we'll track you for the last time next week, actually, because it's our final show next week before we close till the end of July. We'll catch up with you again, Paul. But
lovely.
Well done to everyone. Fantastic. Back-to-back league champions.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Eamonn, and thanks for everybody who's support over your end. Really appreciate it.
Well, back-to-back championships and only wins since returning to football, and maybe a Charlton-Millwall match to watch. Well, we'll let you know next week. Meanwhile, Millwall Lionesses were without a game last weekend, but they face Watford ladies in a friendly this weekend. The Golden Girls, as they are nicknamed, are in Tier 3 of the women's football pyramid. Libby Stubbs, the Lionesses captain, who was on the show last week, stated that they would present a stiffer challenge for this weekend's game. And we'll hear more about that game next week. Before our next guest joins us, we'll take a break for now. And here's Bethany Warren once again, talking about a great story that is born out of the passing of a goalkeeping star of women's football, Jordan Dawes, and her cousin's efforts to raise money in her memory.
Hi, Bethany Warren here. Millwall fans Danielle and James will be running the London Landmark Half Marathon in August, in memory of Danielle's cousin, Jordan Dawes. Listen to Danielle tell her story.
Hello, so I am running the London Landmark Half Marathon in August. While training for Tough Mudder, which I'm doing in September, I feel I got the bug for running. I wanted to give myself a challenge, and while raising money for Eleanor. Jordan's memory lives on forever, and as a family, we honour her memory by giving back to the charities that gave their care and support during the darkest of times. Jordan lost her battle to cancer in 2019. She was a keen footballer, playing for the likes of Charlton Athletic, Dillingham, and ending her football career at Kent Football United. One of the most memorable times for me and the family when watching Jordan play was when she actually saved a penalty in a cup final, leading Kent Football United to win. She was an infectious person to be around. Her smile lit up the room. She was keen in talking to James about Millwall. She would come with us as of when she can. And the last game that she actually went to was the FA Cup game against Everton, where Millwall actually spoilt her, made her feel really special. She was able to meet some of the players, have her pictures taken with the keeper at the time, and was actually given the treatment of being able to go into the exec lounge as well. The way that people can donate, and we really would appreciate if anyone can, big, small, whatever it is through my pinned tweet on Twitter. My Twitter handle is DannyL1206, and that is DANNIL1206. Or you can go through Just Giving website, that is justgiving.com/fundraising/Jordan Dawes half marathon. Just want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen and anyone that donates. So thank you.
What a story, and what a lovely couple Danielle and James are in doing this together. So if you can help, you can just put James and Danielle fundraising for Eleanor, that is ELLENOR, into your browser, and the Just Giving page will be shown. I'll say that again. Just put James and Danielle fundraising for Eleanor, that is ELLENOR, into your browser, and the Just Giving page will be shown. Thank you. A link will also be in our announcements on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm Eamonn Barclay, and I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of James Kelly, Henry Morgan, George Lampy. Eleanor is a Kent-based care service who, for children and young adults, extends to the London Borough of Bexley. They are the only charity in the county who provides hospice care for people of all ages, and their care includes the widest range of things that can be possibly done. If you can support Danielle and James's efforts in memory of Millwall fan Jordan, you will certainly make a difference. Our penultimate guest this evening joins us as being a Millwall fan, man and boy. He is also a member of the Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage Drivers, the City of London and City of Westminster Guide and Lectures Association, the London Historians Group, as well as a founder member of Discover Medical London. In his spare time, he runs the Millwall-focused Facebook site Out of the Blue with his mate Mike George, with whom he shares a rockabilly fanship. Born in Lambeth and having shared time in Bermondsey and Kennington, where he enjoyed the chortles of Eagle fans from Selhurst at Battersea Grammar, he remained faithful despite a relocation to France for a time. Let's say no more, but welcome fan of the show, Black Cab Rob Woodford. Hello, Rob. How are you?
Hello, Eamonn. That was quite a build-up, mate. You sure you got the right geezer?
Well, none of those things I've dreamt up. I've seen them everywhere, all over the place, and in so many different bits. You just come up with so many angles on Google. But there you go. It must be you. And the other thing that backs it up is everywhere I look, there's your lovely face.
Well, I'll take your word for that, mate.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on. Thank you very much.
It's lovely to have you on. Rob, for how long did you remain an expat in France, and how did you manage to follow the Lions from France?
Well, I was in France running my property care business for about 4 years. I left Dulwich Village for the south of France in 2002 and remained there until 2006. So it won't take much of a Millwall historian to work out that that famous old cup run was right in the middle of that. So how did I manage to follow the Lions? Well, the simple answer to that one is Ryanair, really. I was not a season ticket holder during the expat period like I was before and since. But of course, I got back to the Den as often as I could, really. And that included the semi-final at Old Trafford and the final at Cardiff. I only managed to watch the quarter-final game because it was live on TV. And then the replay against Tranmere, I had to listen to a rubbish radio signal that was coming and going, and that was a bit stressful as well, not knowing what was happening out there. And And like everyone else in this room and listening, you know, as soon as the draw was made and the choice of grounds was made, I made plans as quickly as possible to come back to England. And I told my business partner that whatever work was on that weekend, I was going anyway. So that was that. And there was a couple of stressful things that I remember about that trip, because I had to drive to Bordeaux Airport to catch a flight to Manchester. I was staying with my mate Alan at the time. He lived on the Wirral. And I misjudged how long it would take to get from my place. I worked it out to be about 4 hours, but it looked like it was going to turn into 5. And I was sweating, really, because I could have missed that flight. You know, I'm not exactly Lewis Hamilton on the motorway. If ever any of you guys overtook me on the road, you think I'm parked up. I don't rush and tear about. But I did that day. I had to make up time. And, of course, the other stressful thing about that match, which, you know, a lot of people have told me since as well, they were doing the same thing, looking up at those digital clocks that they had all around Old Trafford, you know, wondering whenever the referee was going to blow his whistle up, you know, because it seemed to take for ages, didn't it, you know?
It does.
Yeah.
Did.
If Danny Dichio had scored with that point-blank header, we wouldn't have had so much stress, would we?
No.
And then when it came to the final in Cardiff, there was about 15 of us, went from Maidstone in a limo. And when the driver found a street to park up as close as he could to the Millennium Stadium, we got out of the car and couldn't believe there were so many other limos there, which were full of Lions fans, you know. But it was a great day, and, you know, whenever I go into Harry's bar, I always stop and look at that picture on the wall of the players coming out the tunnel.
Yeah.
And another moment, I can remember catching up with an old mate of mine I'd not seen for years. This was outside a pub in Cardiff, and he came along. We did the old embrace, and then I said to him, you know, we're going to do United now, you know, and we both looked at each other for a couple of minutes, and we sort of, you know, then burst out laughing. So, Steve Lee, if you're listening, mate, you'll remember that one.
Well, thanks for filling in that gap. That was wonderful.
Hey, Rob, Henry here, mate. Lovely to listen to you and to meet you sort of virtually.
Hello, Henry.
Who stood out to you this season as our most improved player, mate? And was Bart your player of the season?
Well, I think our most improved player this season has to be Danny McNamara. You know, before he went to play up in Scotland, I'm not sure how many of us knew exactly how good he was. That's that one. And Billy Mitchell, another one. His game's improving all the time. And I think both of those players, I'm not sure if they played 20 games each yet for Millwall's first team. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but it can't be much more. No, and I suppose I'd like to have seen people like Tyler Bury and Hayden Muller get more minutes, but I'm sure they will next season, because it does look like, once again, there seems to be a good crop of youngsters getting a pathway to the first team. And maybe next season the likes of Isaac Olafe and Alex Mitchell will get closer to first team duties. Who knows? What was the other question? I've forgotten.
Yeah, was Bart your player of the season, or did you think there was someone else that was?
No, Bart was my player of the season. He got the nod in front of Scott Malone, actually.
Okay, yeah.
I would have made him player of the season for the season before that as well, but I gave it to Frank Fielding for getting himself injured. Sorry, Frank. And yeah, Scott Malone was second, and I think probably between Jed and Jake for third place. I don't know who ended up third, do you?
No, they didn't mention it at all.
Hi, Rob. James here.
Maybe.
James.
Maybe.
How you doing?
I'm good, mate. You?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Great to talk to you again.
Thank you.
Last time you were on our show, you mentioned a tour of the Mill sites on the Isle of Dogs. I've noticed those plans have come to fruition. So can you tell us all about what will happen and how people can join that tour?
Yeah, sure. The event takes place on Thursday, the 8th of July at 11 o'clock. And it's been promoted by the Out of the Blue Facebook group. And the theme of the walking tour is Millwall's history and heritage, the first 25 years on the Isle of Dogs. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk in the footprints of our club's ancestors, those founding fathers who were the originators, administrators, shareholders, players and supporters of our famous old football club. And, you know, whether that means walking across a factory floor or down in the docks or around the pubs or on one of those 4 long-lost football pitches that we played on before we left the island in 1910. And the start point will be back at West India Dock. I still call it West India Dock, but modern street planners now call it West India Quay, of course. It's the same with Surrey Docks, isn't it? Yeah. And the meeting point is going to be by a wrecking ball at the side of the dock there. It's a survivor from the LDDC regeneration period of the 1980s, so already we've got a connection straight from the off with Millwall Football Club. The finish will be down at Island Gardens near the Greenwich Foot Tunnel, and I'll get emails from people that are booked asking me how long it will last. Well, it's a difficult one to measure because we've not done it before, and I suppose it depends really on how fast or how slow we walk. And as a walking guide, you kind of get the dynamics of a group after you've done a couple of stops. But it don't really matter to me because I've got all day. And another reason, well, we don't know about the length of time because it depends on how many questions people ask after every presentation stop. Again, I'm not worried about that because if I don't know the answer, I'll just phone a friend. And the third reason why we don't know how long it'll take is because the half-time break is in a pub, so it really depends how long we're in there sucking oranges, doesn't it? Anyone can find the event by Googling Out of the Blue History and Heritage Day, or there are links on some very good Facebook groups, actually, such as Out of the Blue and No One Likes Us Talking. Uh-huh. And even Millwall Russians have got us on their group. I'm sorry if I've forgotten anybody. We've sold 20 tickets so far, but we can't have more than 30, which is the limit for a London tour guide. That's to satisfy public liability insurance. And Mike George, who runs the site with me, he's producing limited edition T-shirts for the first group who walk this tour. Yeah, it's all happening, and if we don't sell out, the plan is to put one on again during one of the international breaks next season.
Great idea.
So you know, as a tour guide, I like to make my tours factual but fun and entertaining as well. So depending on how many oranges we do suck at half time, you know, we might even have a sing-song before the finish, you never know.
George here, Rob.
Hello, George. Long time no see, mate.
Yeah, and I'd like a couple of tickets for that, actually, if I'm honest, so we'll talk about that some other time.
All right.
You followed the show in all its guises over the years, and thanks for continuing to do so. We secured a top half finish this season, but what, if anything, has disappointed you about our overall performance this year?
Yeah, well, I think finishing 11th is a good effort given all the circumstances for our club without home fans. I really do. What disappointed me? Obviously that long run in the middle of the season when we couldn't buy a win and then seemed to be free falling towards the trap door. But diving a little bit deeper than that, the biggest disappointment on the pitch for me was how often at times we seem to turn the ball over with unforced errors, really. You know, and I think as a team we are well set up to defend anyway, but when defending has to be because you've been turned around, then, you know, against the better teams at this level you get punished. I'll say this till I'm blue in the face, you know, you can't expect to win games of football if you keep passing the ball to the opposition. You know, it's not rocket science, is it? You know,
it's not
and also, you know, the same thing is when when we clear the ball out of defence sometimes. When I hear Batesy on iPlayer say that's a really good clearance, and I'm saying to myself, but it'd be even better clearance if it found a Millwall player. Look, we do need a couple of players with a bit of composure at the back, I think, in key positions. Maybe another centre-back got that bit of composure on the ball. But we do also need a midfield player that can drive forward, because it's a long time since we've had goals scored from midfield, isn't it? I think George Saville was the last player, I think, to get double figures from midfield. Yeah.
Well, that was going to be my question, really. What do you think needs to happen ahead of our return for next season? When it comes to, if we're going to challenge, what positions do we need to promote, I suppose? And I mean, if I'm honest, I would think forwards is crying out. The one area we're crying out.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do need a centre back. We need a midfield player that could drive the ball forward. We've had them before, haven't we? With people like Alex Ray and Timmy Cahill. We're missing that spark at the moment. The linking the midfield to the forward line. We obviously need a journeyman centre forward that knows this division, like Steve Claridge did, like Darius Henderson did. I think he got more than 15 goals one season, didn't he? We're missing that sort of championship level player. If we're going to take a risk with a young rookie, then it is a risk. And I actually reminded one of my mates this afternoon that the last two times we went back down again, it was actually this season. We'd had our time and we went down. So, people are saying we finished 8th last season, we finished 11th this season. Bring a couple more in and we could make the next jump. Look, all the other teams in and around us are trying to do the same thing, so it ain't going to be easy. It really is. It's a difficult balancing act.
Certainly is, Rob. Rob, it's been great to catch up with you once again. But as you know, before we say until next time, it's a tradition to ask all guests for a prediction for the next game. But as the games ain't out as yet, I'll ask you something completely different. Who do you fancy to win the delayed European Championships of 2020?
Well, I've been listening to you asking people this before.
See.
And they all seem to say that their head say France, but their heart says England. Well, my heart does say England, and so does my head.
So we haven't got to go left or right side of
no, look,
your brain.
I mean, the favourites for this tournament are the Belgians, the France, the Spains, aren't they? But, I don't really like the way the format is now. You going to a last 16. That started in the last tournament, I think, didn't it? When even teams that finish third in the group can still qualify. So it's a bit of a minefield. And the way I've looked at it, if we win the group, we're going to get hard matches in the last 16 and the last 8, but we stay at Wembley. If we come second in the group, we get easier matches, but we've got to play in Sweden, don't we, or something like that? It is.
They're off and away.
So let's don't look past the first few games. The first one's a must not lose, and then we know what's coming up next, don't we? So
that's it.
We've got to be on our mettle against the jocks.
That's it. Let's be hopeful. That's the most that we can do. Well, thanks, Rob. We wish you all the best. We wish you all the best, in particular with the up-and-coming Heritage Tour. And we send our regards to both Mike and all those that come along with you. I know our football insider, Barry Stradlin, is very excited about it. So if you do become a little bit worse for the wear, Barry will talk to everyone and anyone about Millwall to fill any gaps.
I know he could give us a song. I know that much.
Yeah, you can always ask him. I'm coming. He'll sing that to everyone. So enjoy that day. You'll have to come back to us and tell us all about it, and we'll speak to you not long into the forthcoming season. So all the best to you, mate.
Thanks,
bye for
Eamonn.
now.
Thanks,
bye
everybody.
For now.
Bye.
Cheers, Rob.
Cheers, Rob.
See you, Rob. Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Good night, gents.
Good night. We'll take a break there for a message from Patricia Maslin with an introduction from that Wembley mascot and Bermondsey boy. You know it. It's Harvey Brown.
Harvey Brown here. I miss my football at the Den. Did you know Millwall Community Trust are continuing to help people of all ages from different walks of life and are doing so much good in these tough times? But they need our help. Here's Patricia to tell you more.
Oh, thank you for that intro, Harvey. Millwall Community Trust appreciates your support. You are a star. The Millwall Community Trust, MCT, have launched a bursary fund to tackle financial hardships. The bursary fund has been put in place to aid individuals participating in an MCT activity or programme. The funds will be awarded to help further an individual's career and potential at MCT. Sean Daly, CEO of the Trust, said, "Funds raised from our fundraising events and donations from supporters of the Trust will support the MCT's bursary, which will in turn offer financial support to participants on our programmes. For example, helping with travel expenses so they can attend, providing clothing for young people, or paying for a haircut for an interview. The bursary fund will be open to all participants of Millwall Community Trust programmes. We are really excited to launch the project and will always welcome donations. For further information about the bursary, please email Sean Daly, that is SDALY at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. If you wish to make any donations, insert Millwall Community Trust into your internet browser, click on Donate, either on the browser page or on the header of the MCT website. Thank you.
I'm Eamonn Barclay. I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of James Kelly, Henry Morgan and George Lampy. Our final guest tonight is part of the Millwall Community Trust team. His current role is to deliver a programme that is free, that's free, to participants and will help fans to tackle their weight, get healthier and be happier by joining Fit Fans. As I said, a free 12-week programme is being delivered this May and June at the Den. I'll say no more as we welcome David Streetley to the show. Hello, David.
Oh, good evening, all.
Hello, Dave.
Evening, David.
Oh, sorry, Henry. I didn't notice that you were still there. Hi, David. This is a great initiative. How did it come about?
Well, Fit Fans was created in Scotland by the University of Glasgow and the Scottish Professional Football League. And then last year, some English clubs got involved. It was launched, and it's supported by the National Lottery funding from Sport England through the EFL Trust. And then recently, Millwall Community Trust has come on board to deliver this programme in partnership with the EFL.
So that's great. Another thing that Sean's decided to launch you into. So, well, that's fantastic. Great stuff.
Hi, Dave. George here, mate.
Hi, George.
All right. Are there any necessarily requirements to be able to join the programme in terms of individual profile or attendance obligations?
Yeah, good question. So it starts on the 7th of June. It's a funded and targeted 12-week programme, one evening a week, to tackle weight, like Eamonn said. And it's encouraging people to eat better, exercise and lead healthier lifestyles. So it's for male and females, 35 to 65. We're targeting those with a BMI of 28 plus. And then for males, those with a waist size of more than 37, and for females, 31. And then the expectation is, out of the 12 sessions, that you attend a minimum of 10 of those.
Right.
Yeah.
Evening, David. It's James here.
Hi, James.
Hiya. What are the things that joiners will be expected to do as part of the programme?
Well, first thing, obviously sign up and register, but it's classroom and practical. So expectations are just to come along, join in, take part, share your experiences. And then they get a workbook, so that contains advice and some tasks. So things like keeping a food diary or counting their steps. And then this will link to what we're going to learn about in the course, about the healthy eating, alcohol guidelines and exercise. So just sort of throw themselves into it you like, come and have some fun with us and we'll all learn together.
Great.
Brilliant.
Hi, David. Henry here, mate. Look, this all sounds Hey, mate, this all sounds brilliant. So can you tell us how somebody can actually get more information on the programme and how do they go about joining?
Yeah, sure. So we've been promoting it the last few weeks on the Millwall Community Trust website, social media. But I think the best thing to do is just to email me direct, and I'll just send them all the information, or they can call me. So just contact me, David Streetley. So that's Streetley, Street, then Ley. And my email address is dstreetley@millwallcommunity.org.uk. So people can contact me. I'll sell them all the information, and then they can call, email, or text me, whatever they like.
Do if they want. That's perfect. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
No
Yeah, if you ever wanted to buy a second-hand car, you'd buy one off David Streetley. Oh, no, I mean, if you ever want to go on a Fit Fans programme, that's it, isn't it? David, look, thanks for coming on the show and explaining the background to and the practicalities surrounding the Fit Fans programme. I'm sure that this will be of interest to, and I'll say some of our listeners, because some of us are a little bit disappointed that we can't go along. But before you go, it's a tradition on the show that guests provide a prediction for our next match. But because there isn't one, please, what do you fancy who to win the delayed European Championships of 2020?
Well, I kind of feel like I've got to go all in here, throw myself in two-footed, and say that England are going to go all the way and win it 2-0 in the final.
Well, you couldn't have said a better thing, because that has been the consistent view from all of the guests this evening, and I'm sure the panel are absolutely delighted you made it a hat-trick of England wins. Let's be open, we mustn't forget that you can go and watch some of that down the den as well. If you check out on the Millwall website, they've got arrangements for the bar to be open and the bus. You can go and watch not the Lions of Millwall, but the Lions of England in action. Thanks again, David, and all the best with the programme. You'll have to tell us a little bit about that later on in the year, or we might catch you up. I think you have something to do with the ISIS programme as well.
Oh, yes, I'm working in the prison on that programme as well, so there'll be some photos on social media. We're thinking the prison doing that as well. So.
And we're due to go in there and do some interviewing, so perhaps we'll catch up there.
Oh,
all right.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, bye for now, David, and all the best.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, Dave.
Well, that was strange. You was all supposed to say arrivederci, but never mind. We'll try something else another time. And now for something completely different. George, we'll have to get on to Sean Daly for a programme for the over 65s. I mean, Stan was quite disgruntled when he found that he couldn't go on a free programme.
Oh, right. I was going to say it's a bit hard for James and Henry to have to go on to over 65s, but there you go.
But they don't meet the BMI issues either. But there you go.
Yeah,
so there you go.
I did notice that. I thought I'd keep quiet on that bit when he got.
Yeah. But what has been great is hearing Lord Roy Kennedy talk of supporting Millwall his life, the work of the Millwall Community Trust, and mentioning Sean Daly in the Lords on Tuesday evening. It's about time, really, because they do so much. It was great that they got a shout out in the Lords. It's so well deserved.
It's indeed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, it's come to that sort of last line of the night, and I'll say, people's lives are still being lost to this dreadful virus, or a consequence of suffering with it. Infections continue to rise slightly, and some parts of the country it's quite significantly. People continue to be hospitalised. Our thoughts go out to the victims, their families, friends, and those who take care of them.
There are so many fans who want to support the club for now, and you can simply make a donation when you renew your season ticket. All the details and more can be found on the Millwall website. Don't forget the Super Saver period has ended, but the Saver period, and we go on and on, don't we, this, has begun with adult prices reduced by just under 50%, and under 6s reduced by 86%. This still guarantees you very good value for your season ticket, which that part of it will end on the 30th of June 2020, with purchases available online and by phone only. Sponsorship packages will be announced soon, along with other commercial opportunities. So watch out for the club website for further details. Lastly, Husky bundles are available pre-order in the Lions store, consisting of a 12-pack of Husky original chocolate drinks and a signed limited edition Husky baseball bat. Don't delay and get your order in today. The caps are signed by one of the 5 first-team members, Billy Mitchell, Danny McNamara, Mason Bennett, Jed Wallace or Bart, our player of the season goalkeeper. Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Next Friday, Johnny Burrow returns to host the final show of the season with Jeff Burnige, Bethany Warren and Stan Godwin. But before I go, let's not forget Michael Cole, a 36-year-old lifelong Lions fan and son of former Millwall employee Mark, had been given 2 months to live but is currently in Guy's Hospital and receiving morphine and radiotherapy, which, along with chemotherapy, could extend his life for a year. However, Michael's friend, Kevin Lott, is raising money for Michael to be able to afford private treatment, which could give him the opportunity to live for many more years. Any donation, big or small, would be a huge help towards Michael's treatment and appreciated by his family and friends. For more information and to donate, insert fundraiser by Kevin Lott supporting Michael Cole into your browser and a link will appear to where you can make a donation. And that's good night from me.
Don't forget Millwall Lionesses and Romans are now playing football under the current restrictions. We're awaiting details on when fans may be able to attend. The Lionesses are having open training sessions for prospective new first team members which commenced on the 7th of April. You'll need to register interest on a form which is available on their Facebook or their Twitter site. Millwall Romans return to playing and training and potential joiners are welcome. Why not join this back-to-back championship winning side and make contact through either their Facebook or their Twitter sites. Both teams train and play their home games at most excellently managed Millwall Community Trust site at St Paul's Sports Ground, Salter Road, Rotherhithe. And you could be playing there too. It's good night from me.
Lastly, let's not forget to keep it safe on the streets out there. Follow the lockdown 3.0 with reducing guidance, social distancing when outside and a face mask where necessary. Well, that's it for me for the last time this season. So thanks, James, Henry and George. And until next season, that's good night.
Good night.
Good night.